Yeah, I've got four names, two of which were in that deal. So New Love was in our team when I first started watching, and I think we'd only really recently signed him from Featherstone. He'd come over with Fox, and yeah, I mean, for me, he just looked like a class above every other player we had in terms of his natural physical abilities. Stronger than almost everyone else we had, certainly faster than almost everyone we had, and he really stood out in what was a good side, but he looked like a world-class player in a good side. But at the same time, I still think we were right to sell him in terms of what we got back, because we got two great solid players in Dwyer and Sonny Nicol, and then we also got Paul Lachlan, who is much more in the Shenton mould, a fantastic player for his winger. He was brilliant for us in '96 and '97. He wasn't a young player when he came to us. He was, towards the end of his career, but he had two brilliant years with us. Fantastic centre, really, really great hands, and yeah, he set up plenty of tries for his guys. A bit later on, I couldn't go by without mentioning Champagne Harpy as a partner to Leslie.
Champagne, yeah.
Champagne.
Silky skilled player.
Yeah, so skillful, evasive, enough speed, but primarily a guy who could set up his winger. And the last name is somebody who is not purely a centre. It's the Beaver. It's Steve Menzies. Did some absolutely ridiculous things at centre for us in his year with us before he moved on. Unbelievable quality player that probably could play anywhere on the pitch, to be frank. But I was just delighted that he featured in a Bradford shirt for a year.
Yeah, great second row to bring into the centres conversation there. I've got to say Paul Laughlin's not a player that I remember seeing play, so I can't really speak to his skills, but yeah, Harpe was really good, and when you mentioned him, Champagne Harpe, it made me think as well of like some of the other similar kind of mold players, like Joel Moon, who no one's mentioned, who was I thought like very similar in sort of style and like sort of rangy limbiness, and seemed to be able to get any sort of variety of pass away to his winger. So I was surprised no one dropped a mention in for him actually as well. So they're two good mentions that you've come up with there. Yeah, Sarah, what did you have for us on this one?
So I predominantly focused on Hull players, and a lot of them have been mentioned. So there's Yeaman, Richie Barnett. I mean, that was such a big signing when we got him, and sadly he ended up with some weird fatigue-esque condition that stopped him playing, which was quite a sad ending.
Did you have the two Richie Barnetts? No,
at the same time,
weren't it?
We had them both at the same time.
Right.
Richie Barnett Senior and Richie Barnett Junior.
Yeah, not related though. I don't.
No, not related at all. But got to tell them apart somehow. And then, of course, our current centres of Carlos and Griffin, again, two very talented players. In the not too distant past, we've had Toa Koilov and Sid Domick. I mean, Koilov again, I thought they were both players that you could get excited about the fact that you've signed.
Koilov was another like really limmy kind of rangy kind of player, wasn't he? You sort of almost felt he was one of those with the telescopic arm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just kept going, yeah.
Like he got close to the line, he was going to reach out and score.
Yeah, definitely. And then from non-Hull, I've Junior Sow is a player that I've always liked. I like his. I don't know. He's just one of those that always seems better than the team he plays in. But I don't know whether that's a reflection on him or the team he plays in.
he's very noticeable, isn't he, whenever he's on the pitch, and not
Yeah,
just
and
for
that's
his
even without.
weird haircut
I
that
was
looks
say
like
that's
a mop.
without his bleached hair, but
Yeah.
no, he's a player that I've always liked. And then I don't know where this John Bateman, is he a centre?
Well, internationally, he's had some great games at centre, hasn't he? So I think it's fair to, if we're talking about the Beaver, then we could talk about Bateman too, for certain. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's definitely there, I think, in terms of great centres. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of mine.
What do you so Griffin is obviously a player who is much loved in Hull FC, not just for what he's done for Hull FC, for what he previously did for Salford in one particular 5-minute spell of one particular match.
I think 2.5 minute spell, actually.
I was thinking about him the other day. It's one of those players who probably is losing out from this period because he'd just got his first sort of international recognition, hadn't he, really, by Sean Wayne pulling him up to the senior squad meet-up, and then it looks like, obviously, well, now he's not going to get to show his talents off during this period of time. That might actually set him back then again, which it seems like a shame for a player who's been really on the up and up. Yeah,
I think he talked about how last season he was actually playing most of the season with a groin injury, which was antagonised by the fact he was doing 3 hours of travelling every day. But he sort of got operated on and treated and everything else. And I think this season he has really kicked on, and I think he's got more speed than you give him credit for, because he's a big lad. His defence is good. He's got a good pair of hands. He can kick the ball. I think he is a very well-rounded player. It is what effect this period of time has on him in his career, like you say.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, your dad did a bit of a history lesson for us. I'm going to add to the history lesson a little bit as well, guys, because I think centre's a position that's well represented in the Rugby League Hall of Fame. Gary Schofield, we've talked a lot about. He's in there as a centre in a standoff. We've already touched on Neil Fox, whose birthday it is, and Eric Ashton, who was the Wigan man who was played alongside Billy Boston in that great sort of Wigan era. There's a few other centres in there who actually went in the inaugural class of. So there's 3 centres in the inaugural class of the Rugby Football League Hall of Fame. Billy Batten from Hull, Sarah. I don't know, obviously, how much his name lives on in legend. He was in the sort of Hull sides that first won the Challenge Cup way back, I guess, 100 years.
Yeah, he is talked about still quite a bit.
Gus Risman, who played for Salford and Workington, came over from Welsh Rugby Union, and there's the famous photo of him holding the Challenge Cup with a fag behind his ear, from the Salford sort of the birth of the Red Devils, kind of that era. He was around for that, and then won it as player coach, didn't he, with Workington, I think, and I think he might have won the Lance Todd for that one as well. And Harold Wagstaff, the Prince of Centres, he was known as. He played in Huddersfield's Team of All Talents. That was it. Huddersfield's team? No, it was Hunslet. Huddersfield and Hunslet both had those 2 great teams at the same time. Yeah, it was the Huddersfield team was called the Team of All Talents. They won the 4 cups in the, when was it? 1915, something like that, just before the First World War.
It was around that period, wasn't it? Because they were stationed locally, so they were able to pick from the best players. So Huddersfield had, as you said, had a team of all talents.
I mean, he's from Holmfirth. That's pretty much Huddersfield.
Well, that helps, doesn't it? But yeah, maybe not so much him, but some of the other players maybe.
But anyway, yeah, he played for nearly 20 years for Huddersfield. Also, captained Great Britain from a very young age. He was captain of Great Britain when he was only early 20s. He was the captain of Huddersfield from the age of 19, and then I think it was 21 when he became the captain of Great Britain, and he was the captain of the famous Rorke's Drift Test match as well back in 1914. So, I certainly think we couldn't really talk about rugby league centres without talking about Harold Wagstaff. But to bring it more up to date, after talking about the 6 centres in the Rugby League Hall of Fame, to bring it more up to date, my ones that I'd bring out, Gary Connolly's already been mentioned. He, for me, was in that mould of a great centre for his winger, both in attack and defence. Like, he very rarely exposed his winger defensively to the opposition. When the opposition were attacking down their side, I always thought with Gary Connolly. And when I started going to watch Wigan regularly, it was just around the time we signed Steve Renouf as well. So Renouf is on fire was the chant.
Of course, yeah.
And so we had Gary Connolly and Steve Renouf in tandem for a couple of years. They were the centres when we won the Challenge Cup. No, Renouf maybe had gone then, actually. Maybe it was the year before. I don't know. When we had the Adidas shirts, they were the centres. Renouf's most famous kind of moment was the Renouf to Radlinski try that won the League Leaders Shield against Bradford. I think you might remember it. Back in 2001, I think it was. But yeah, he was absolutely an outstanding player for Brisbane, and then finished his career with Wigan. Another one to mention, we talked about it on the bit with Brett from Blackpool Panthers, but another one for me to certainly mention would be George Carmont from a Wigan perspective. And right into the modern day, I can't believe no one's brought up Mark Percival or Oliver Gildart yet. I absolutely love watching both of those two centres play. I think they both are very, even though they might look like they're not quite kind of that passionate or whatever, I don't know, but they're both very determined and incredibly skillful, incredibly fast players, and I really enjoy watching both of those play, even though one of them plays for St Helens. So yeah, we probably haven't really given enough credit to Callum Watkins as well, because maybe in an era where we didn't have tons and tons of world-class centres in our own competition, kind of before the emergence of Percival and Gildart, maybe you only kind of had Watkins and Shenton after the period where you'd had people like Newlove and Connolly, and then Senior as well. So I don't know, maybe you haven't talked about Watkins enough, but he was the best centre in Super League for like 5 or 6 years. And we kind of just brushed over it because his career kind of took a downer after he got a really bad injury when he was just about to be the best he ever was.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you do feel that injuries have affected his reputation more than anything else, and it's not that not fair. It's not like both Percival and Gildart have both had serious injuries as well, but I don't think we view them in the same way, do we?
No, maybe because they're younger,
maybe. So
it's more forward-looking. Like these guys could be in an England team that wins a World Cup, whereas Watkins was in a moment so close to us having success in a World Cup with the ankle tap in 2017. But yeah, I sort of thought maybe it's worth a little bit more credit to him. Like you say, maybe something's gone awry because of that last season at Leeds where they played him in the second row and it was all a bit pointless.
Yeah, there's a bit of recency bias there, isn't there? It's very easy to forget how good he was.
Well, there's a few names that we've mentioned there. There's a few people that we've not mentioned too that are going to come up in the quiz. Okay.
Oh, great.
So I've got three rounds to the quiz, and I hope it's not a draw at the end because I haven't come up with a tie-break question. The first 2 questions are for you both to play at the same time. Okay. So round 1, centre of attention. These questions relate to award-winning centres, right? So.
I'm only interested in the round names. I'm not interested in anything else.
That's the best one. The rest of them are crap. So, three centres have won the Man of Steel award, the Steve Prescott Man of Steel award. So, alphabetically, in first name order, they are Dean Bell, Jamie Lyon, and Jonathan Davies. We haven't talked about Jonathan Davies. I think we talked about him when we talked about fullbacks and standoffs and all of that. But to me, he was a centre at his very best from everything I've watched of him.
Yeah, he was a bit of everything for me. When I think of Jonathan Davies, he's a fullback for Great Britain. But yeah, there you go.
So anyway, yeah. So Dean Bell, Jamie Lyon, Jonathan Davies in alphabetical order according to their first names. But what I want you two to do is put them in